on the other hand, I mean, willfulness is an awfully hard standard in contexts like this for the government to meet. And we know that in countless contexts. Now, we're dealing here with a statute. I mean, I sort of suggested that I think 5321 is very clear in its count-specific nature. I think 5314 is also pretty clear in its account-specific nature. And you're coming in and you're making an equitable argument. And the equitable argument has a kind of force. But I think the questions here are, is that force mitigated when one realizes that there is a reasonable cause exception, and that on the other hand of this equitable argument is that there is a real difference between a person with not much wealth, not knowing that he should be filing something about his checking account, and a person who has hundreds of millions of dollars in many, many accounts, is constantly making transactions, is constantly opening and closing them, maybe doing it to evade taxes, maybe doing it to finance terrorism. And, you know, in that case, the equities go against you. And that suggests, well, let's just look at the statute. And the statute, as I said, is very account-specific.
Well, Your Honor, first I want to be clear. Our primary argument is not equitable, it's textual. We just read the statute in a very different way. And I would like to try to convince you of that textual reading because, again, there is nothing in this statute that says you have to report each account. It says you have to file reports as required by the Secretary. If the Secretary doesn't promulgate a regulation, you don't have to do anything at all. The only obligation imposed on anyone that's regulated under this provision is to do whatever the Secretary has told you.
I don't know how that helps you because obviously you're saying that there is an obligation on the account holder anyway, so whether the obligation has to do with a particular account or not, you run into that same problem.
Oh, I don't think so, Your Honor, because the problem you run into is you haven't filed a proper report. That's one violation. The government's trying to say there's an independent
you can finish.
Thank you. There's an independent standalone obligation to report each individual account grounded in the statute itself. Because remember, 5321 is specifically limited to statutory violations. It's not a violation of the regulation. And when Congress wanted to extend this to not doing what the regulation says, they said so expressly. They do that in A2 and A3 of 5321.